This is Horns Up. I'm Animesh.
And I'm Peter.
And today we are dissecting delicious death metal delivered to us by the mighty living legends Cannibal Corpse. And we're doing it versus style, where we're pitting two albums against the other. And so we brought in one of the friends of the pod, Aditya Rao, aka Toila, to help us out. Welcome back, Aditya. How's it going?
What's up, guys? What's up? All good, man. All good. How's it going with you guys?
Chal raha hai. Which translates to it's okay, it's going.
Living through the brutality that is COVID.
Absolutely. So let's set the stage. We're pitting perhaps the two most popular Cannibal Corpse albums against each other. Yes,
Yeah.
it's the sophomore release Butchered at Birth versus the band's third studio album, Tomb of the Mutilated. Before we begin, here are some quick facts about each album. Butchered at Birth was released 1st July 1991, making it over 30 years old today. It's the album that's famous for establishing and cementing the Cannibal Corpse signature sound, while Tomb of the Mutilated was released 22nd September 1992, so just around a year later, and is perhaps the most popular Cannibal Corpse albums thanks to some really standout songs that led the band to gain some major mainstream exposure and credibility. Both albums, however, feature the same lineup. It's Chris Barnes on vocals, Bob Rousey and Jack Owen on guitars, Alex Webster on bass, and Paul Mazurkiewicz on drums. Both albums were produced, engineered, and mixed by Scott Burns and were released on Metal Blade. They're both pretty much similar in terms of duration. Both feature 9 original songs each and also add on a live cut of one song too, if that is you find the albums on Apple Music or wherever else you're streaming these things these days. And yes, I think the sale and display of both these albums is still forbidden by law in Germany. I'm not sure.
So in Germany, they still can't play both these albums.
No, I think the ban was lifted. Like Eaten Back to Life ka ban was lifted in 2006. Now they can play stuff from Butchered at Birth and Tomb. Yeah, because they did it in 2014. Wacken was the first time they could play Butchered at Birth.
Correct. That was a mad
Yeah.
video. I remember that.
Germans,
So,
give us some
yeah.
real-time
They were banned in
opinions.
Australia as well. Like
They
I
were.
think, yeah,
And
I
I
then
don't think
Tomb-
all three of them were, but definitely
I
Tomb
think
of the
Tomb
Mutilated
was in Australia. Yeah.
Okay, so are we ready to do this? Let's pit them against the other. Let's begin versus.
Toila,
a
are
tough-
you ready? Are you ready
a-
for this?
I mean, I like how you guys always get me on like put me in a tough spot always. Like when it comes to death metal, like it's like the most difficult choices are brought up on me. But yeah, man, I'm ready. Let's do it. Let's go for it.
Cool, brilliant. Here's beginning versus. But this time I thought let's do things a bit differently. Let's start off by discussing artwork.
Oh,
What
okay.
say? Yeah, I'll try my best to describe what's going on in each cover. Butchered at Birth has two mad butcher doctors doing exactly what the album name suggests, butchering babies, presumably at birth. Tomb of the Mutilated, on the other hand, shows two ivory-skinned, gutted lovers caught in an act of mortal cunnilingus. That's taken from a brilliant article on Invisible Oranges. It's an image that definitely helps you visualize what the songs on the album are about. Now, both artworks, just like every artwork by Cannibal Corpse, are the product of artist Vincent Locke. So, Aditya, between the two, which one would you pick?
Man, that's a tough call. But I would say Butchered at Birth, man. Like that cover is just too brutal, man. Like imagine, like it's. I mean, if you go to see it, sort of defines the name Cannibal Corpse. If Cannibal Corpse was an artwork, it would be something that horrific or brutal. I mean, Tomb of the Mutilated definitely is like sickening in its own way. And I have an interesting story about that too. I had ordered that album once and the parcel had come home and I was not at home. And my mom sort of innocently, opened the package and out pops the Tomb of the Mutilated CD. And she just kept it back in the parcel. And when I came home, she's like, dude, what the fuck do you listen to, man? And what is this nonsense? So it was an awkward conversation, but yeah, man, I would go for Butchered at Birth, man. That it's pretty iconic as well. If you go to see, I mean, like people may or may not remember Tomb of the Mutilated, but they can definitely remember Butchered at Birth. It leaves like a very lasting impression on you if you see it like once. So yeah, Butchered at Birth is my choice.
Okay, Peter, what about you?
And this is so odd, and I'm gonna keep repeating this as a parent. It's like extremely hard to have like a objective look at such things.
Forget objectivity here. Which
No,
one would you prefer
which one did I prefer? Obviously,
as an artwork?
as an artwork, obviously, Tomb of the Mutilated. Butcher at Birth is just like bloody sickening, man. I mean, I'm just trying to picture, like, there's a reason why I don't own any of the first four Cannibal Corpse albums on CD. Is
What?
oh boy,
Really?
yeah. Well, can you imagine my son finding it, dude?
That's true.
Traumatized
I mean, my
for-
parents found it, and
Yeah.
so I get the case. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
imagine my kid finding it. Like, I'll have to be paying for therapy for I don't know how long.
For sure.
But that's my reason. What about you, Animesh?
Okay, so here's the thing, right? Like Butchered at Birth, it's gory, yet it's hilarious. I'm extremely intrigued by why the zombies are wearing aprons. I mean, do they want to maintain hygiene levels? I'm really not like, is it a hygiene issue? I don't know. What I like, the dead babies on hangers is what absolutely does it for me. That's the chef's kiss on that. Tomb of the Mutilated, on the other hand, it's just a fucking mindfuck because it's gross. I don't know if it's better because it's just a what the fuck is going on artwork for me. So Butcher at Birth is definitely the tamer of the two. So if you were looking for, I mean, if the objective question here is which one is more horrifying, then definitely that's Tomb of the Mutilated. But which one would I prefer? Man, Butcher at Birth, only because Tomb of the Mutilated is just a complete mindfuck.
Yeah, I think their more recent artworks are tame in comparison to
dude.
what they had on the
Of
first
course.
4 or 5. I
wait,
think
wait.
up till like Gallery of Suicide, they had like
Violence in Unimagined. That was like
yeah,
finally
the
a
new
comeback.
one, yeah, and especially the uncensored one is like fucked up. But like man, if you see the artwork still, like I think gore obsessed. I mean, those have the ability to really
Wretched
screw with your
Spawn.
head.
Oh my god.
Yeah, exactly. So you're like, I mean, oh yeah, but another fun fact: Butchered at Birth and I ironically share the same birth date. So I was also born on July 1st. So I was 3 years old when Butchered at Birth. So I was not butchered at birth, but
Clearly.
Oh,
thankful. Yeah,
thankfully.
Thankfully.
yeah. So, but yeah. So I think it was sort of meant to be that Cannibal Corpse would end up being like my favorite band of all time in some sort of serendipitous way, I guess.
So, having said that, between the two, definitely Butcher at Birth still is the more iconic one because, as Aditya rightly said, it's the album cover that almost defines Cannibal Corpse and its ways. So, Butcher at Birth wins on terms of artwork. Let's move on to the actual albums and its songs. We're beginning with song number 1 or songs number 1. It's Meat Hook Sodomy from Butcher at Birth versus Hammer Smashed Face from Tomb of the Mutilated. Peter.
Listen, this is no contest, and I'm saying this while I'm saying this also, I can still kind of feel the chills that I did down my spine when I heard the song live. I'm a smash face, man. Come on, this has to win hands down. Aditya.
Yeah, man. I mean, I would, because it's such an iconic song, and I mean that's their most mainstream song, and that was also the first Cannibal Corpse song I ever heard in my life.
Yeah,
So-
same.
So yeah, man, like that's how I got introduced to the band. So both these albums have a special part, like in me liking Cannibal Corpse, because the first track I ever heard by them was Hammer Smash Face, but the first album that I heard of Cannibal Corpse was Butchered at Birth. So it's a tough call because Me Took Sodomy also has a great is a great song. I mean, the starting buzzsaw type of sound that Jack Owen does on the guitar, Jack Owen and Bob Rousey do on the guitars, and that atmosphere it builds up. You know, like something really fucked up is going to play after this, and it just starts off with this barrage of riffs. Is great, but Hammer Smash Face from second one till the song ends is straight up brutality in your face. So I mean, hands down, I would say Hammer Smash Face would win for me.
Okay, cool. So yeah, my vote goes to Hammer Smashed Face too. But here's the thing, Aditya, you mentioned the chainsaw intro for Meat Hook Sodomy.
Yeah.
Um, I get very bored of that. The song just
Yeah,
takes too
I
fucking
think
long to start,
yeah,
man.
yeah, exactly. I think it's like maybe 5 seconds too longer, but it's a great build up for what is to come. And I mean, as an album opener, I see what they were trying for, but I mean, it's their
Yeah.
second album, so I mean, you can't give them too much slack, man. So
Yeah, overall, Me Took Sodomy is a
great
great
song, yeah,
song, but I definitely think that it's okay even if the song ended at around the 4.5 minute mark. It just
definitely.
gets a little bit too repetitive. Whereas Hammer Smashed Face, it's fucking cohesive, it's tight, it's focused. There's so much dynamism in there with the varying tempos and the varying vocal styles. And honestly, what I really love about the entire Tomb of the Mutilated production is the love that it gives to Alex Webster's bass.
Yeah,
I
The bass
knew,
is
I
fucking
knew you were going to
prominent, and
bring
I
this
love
up.
no,
it's a
but
brilliant
like,
song to play. It's such a fun song to play
yeah,
live. So yeah, I too am voting for Hammer Smashed Face on this one.
and I think like just in general, from if you hear Butchered at Birth and Tomb of the Mutilated, you can just hear how much of a step up it is for Cannibal Corpse just in terms of production. Like, I mean, hats off to man fucking Scott Burns, like killing it in that era. Because like 1 year back he'd made the D side self-titled, and then he makes Butchered at Birth, and even in that you can see like
Yeah.
the production is like night and day. And
Mm-hmm.
you hear Tomb of the Mutilated, it's like that he nailed that Cannibal Corpse sound, man. That heavy tone that you hear, and which they have just perfected upon on the years with Eric Rutan and stuff like that. I mean, he just nails it in that, man. So the
I mean,
production,
honestly, there's a reason why these guys went from Buffalo down to Florida to
yeah,
record with him, right? And I think after that, till I think 94, everyone was just going to Scott Burns. It's
yeah,
like we need this sound, we need this sound. So I think like that's what happens also. And for me, if you look at it, right, you can see every song that we'll go through, you can actually tell how much more powerful and how much more like as a band their sound is improved, right? Because these guys have now
yeah,
been playing far more.
and all in the span of 1 year. Like
Yeah.
Tomb was like 92 and Butchered at Birth was 91. So in 1 year, like the way that their game has stepped up in general was like amazing, man. Like insane.
A lot of wood shedding happened.
Yeah,
This fucking
definitely.
All right, cool. So Hammer Smashed Face gets the first win as such for Tomb of the Mutilated. Let's go on to songs number 2. It's Gutted from Butchered at Birth versus I Come Blood from Tomb of the Mutilated. Now, I'll start this one off by saying that Gutted, I wish this was on Tombs, or at least it deserves the kind of production that we hear on Tombs of the Mutilated, because it's got some fantastic pummeling riffs. I love the bouncy riff that's happening at around 2 minutes, 5 seconds, that section of the song. And the abrupt end is just so out of left field, it completely floors you. But I Come Blood, it's just the better song. It's a fantastic bass workout, and you can hear it, and that's what I appreciate about it a lot. But beyond that, that mammoth groove for the verse is just absolutely sickening. The drum work, the stick work has improved by so much. Like it's like leaps. Honestly, especially at the beginning of the second verse, that start-stop nature from the second words onwards. Here's a question, boys. Does it feel like an edging technique?
Probably. I
You
think,
don't have
but
to
it's
answer
called like
that
what
in
a like a
public.
staccato. I mean,
staccato, yeah.
yeah, staccato, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And what about those fantastic spider crawling riffs just before the
I
solo
mean,
by Bob Rousey, man? That's fantastic. So yeah, definitely I Come Blood wins on this count for me. What about you, Aditya?
same man. I wish Gutted was a part of Tomb of the Mutilated, because if you like just look beyond the production, it's a fantastic fucking song.
Yep.
I think it's one of the most brutal tracks on Butcher at Birth as well. And I mean, yeah, man, like in spite of the riff writing and all, Icon Blood is relentless, and it's relentless in spite being a very mid-paced song. I mean, it has its highs and lows, right? The intro is pretty slow and then it goes into that speed and then slows down again. So yeah, and again, like as Peter said, man, when I saw that song live, I lost my shit, man, completely. I was like, holy, first of all, I'm like, wow, they're playing this in India. I mean, that's insane. But man, yeah, Icon Blood definitely wins for me any day, hands down, over Gutted.
Peter, same
It's
opinion?
of course, man. I mean, like I think also there's a reason why. Like I watched them live in 2009, and there's a reason why they still play these songs live. And I think yeah, you saw them in 2015, 16, right?
Yeah,
Aditya, yeah.
14,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's the reason these songs have stayed in their set list is because they're so fucking good, man. And like over a period of time, imagine they've been playing it for like so many years, and I love those riffs. I mean, like for me, you like I was saying, right? This is a good example. Can you imagine if they kind of took those gutted riffs and everything and had that whole production that you had on Tomb of the Mutilated, right? It would be so much better. I mean, like this is something that we always can do when we look back, right? But yeah, I mean, overall, it's a far more powerful song. So that's why Icon Blood is the
Yeah,
one.
and just the theme of the song, man, it fucks your head up, man. Like
It
Gutted
keeps
is
it.
still fine. You're like, okay, fine, I'll get gutted. But Icon Blood, you'll be like, holy shit, what? And when you read the lyrics, you're like, dude, what is wrong with fucking Chris Barnes and Webster, man? Like, what is going through their head at that point of time? I mean, it's just like disgusting in a way, but it's disgusting, but you can like appreciate the way that they've written it, and you know how it all just like cohesively just melds into one monstrous song, man. Like insane, insane.
So brilliant. 2 out of 2 at the moment when you only look at the songs for Tomb of the Mutilated. So let's get into songs number 3. It's Living Dissection from Butchered at Birth versus Addicted to Vaginal Skin from Tomb of the Mutilated. Aditya, start this one off. Which one do you pick? Why?
Addicted to vaginal skin, right? The intro, the sound sample that they've used in that is horrifying as fuck, but it's, I don't know, somehow I found it very funny when I heard it for the first time, and I was like, dude, who does this shit? But if I had to just say in just in terms of songs, I would go for Living Dissection, just because I feel that after those two songs on Tomb of the Mutilators is Hammer Smash and Icon Blood, this one was a little of a step down in terms of like just sheer brutality, whereas Living Dissection just ups the game over there. And and if you listen to both Butchered at Birth and Tomb of the Mutilated, both the albums have these songs, they are structured in such a way that they build up towards the end, and towards the end the last three songs of both the albums are like relentless.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is like this Living this Dissection was a little more brutaler than Gutted, and just in terms of riffs, and even like Barnes is like a savage on vocals on that song, man. Like I mean, before his vocals went to shit, but yeah, man, you could see why
before his
why
before his vocals went 6 feet under.
Speed Under, yeah, definitely. No, but then when you listen to especially the stuff on Butchered at Birth, where it's like he's like this primal caveman type singing that he's had, which like like many of the bands try to imitate these days, and he used to do it naturally. Like it came like nothing to him. So yeah, man, like overall, just in terms of sheer brutality, I would go for Living Dissection for sure.
Hmm. Okay, interesting. Because for me, I'm going with Addicted to Vaginal Skin, and I'll tell you why. Living
Don't say because of me.
Dissection. No, Living Dissection has a very interesting opening, but as soon as you hit the verse, those riffs just let the song down because suddenly you're veering into stock territory as such, which is weird because on its own, the lead riff or that motif, as I'm calling it, right, with its cyclical nature, that's crafted beautifully. But I don't know, with the vocals on top, doesn't work for me somehow,
Fair enough. Yeah, yeah.
right? Whereas Addicted to Vaginal Skin, Hear it closely, and wouldn't you think that the lead riff or the opening riff, as such, it has the same cadence or the same pattern as the motive or the lead riff of Living Dissection?
Yeah,
Like if
yeah,
you were to
definitely.
take that
Yeah,
section,
yeah,
slow
yeah,
it
yeah.
down, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
But the thing is, Addicted to Vaginal Skin, there's just so much more variation that's going on,
Yeah, a
and the
lot more
song is
groove as well.
packed with, yeah, it's
Yeah,
packed
a
with
lot
memorable
more groove.
moments.
Yeah,
There's a solo bass section, there's a solo
Yeah.
vocal hit, there's
yeah.
panned drum hits going on. Is it doesn't it leaves you wanting for more, right?
Hmm.
Having said that, I do prefer the solo of Living Dissection more, but my vote as a song, it'll still go to Addicted to Vaginal Skin.
I think it's just my bias for Butchered at Birth that's talking right now. So
Hmm.
no, but no, all points considered, yeah, definitely, man. And that song has like a monster groove in general,
Yeah.
man. Like the whole Tomb album is not like sheer brutality in your face. I mean, it is brutal, but they have like these really nice mid-tempo groovy sections where you can just bob your head, like take a break from that relentless circle windmill headbanging that will do. So it's great, man. It's great, and I mean, both are fantastic songs. Definitely, at the end of the day.
Okay, so we are split at the moment,
Yeah,
Peter.
right now, Peter tiebreaker.
I love these moments when it come in. So I'm giving my vote to Butchered at Birth and Living Dissection, and it's
Oh,
just for
wow.
the primal nature. I mean, like you talked about that caveman kind of vocals, and to me, if you think about it, right, this is where like Chris Barnes literally set the template for the next 25, 30 years. I mean, like Aditya and I listen to a lot of these bands, right? Like on New Standard, Elite, and things like that. They're just like following this exact thing. Like for them, I feel their reference point is Butchered at Birth. This is the production. This is what we want to sound like. That's it, right? They're just kind of, it's not, in a way, death metal has not evolved that much, especially this caveman death metal that's there. But I like the solos, like Animesh said in there. And for Addicted to Virginal Skin, I knew Animesh would bring up because that bass solo just kind of comes in, right? And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not kind of like built up or anything. It just kind of comes there in the center. But yeah, Living Dissection gets my vote just for the for the primal energy. I just really enjoyed that one.
Nice. So Butchered at Birth finally gets a win back. Let's move on to songs number 4. It's Under the Rotted Flesh from Butchered at Birth versus Split Wide Open from Tomb of the Mutilated. I'll go first here. Split Wide Open. I've always felt like Split Wide Open takes the best parts of Hammer Smashed Face and I Come Blood and tries to smash them together and maybe try and add some different masala to it. But yeah, so it's not particularly a fresh song for me as such. Apart from the interesting drum work, the fills and the patterns especially are fucking awesome, but the song really doesn't do anything for me. Whereas Under the Rotted Flesh, it has better guitar work, it has the better riffs. There's definitely more thought on how the two guitars are working together. It seems like a step up, significant step up from even the previous 3 songs. Having said that, I hate how the first solo starts out because it just almost spoils the entire song for me. But after the first part, it's all pretty much great. The second solo is absolutely flawless, and weirdly, it's the first song on this album that seems to give me a wholesome, finished kind of a feel, right?
Hmm.
Like it's a song where the where truly it is the sum of all parts that's actually better than individual parts as such. So definitely the better song between the two for me at least. I'm voting for Under the Rotted Flesh. Peter.
So you talked about Split Wide Open, right? It's like straight shot to the throat, and that's it. Like you feel that okay, that's it. Because if you look at the way the progression of the songs are going, right, it just kind of like stops over there. But for me, Under the Rotted Flesh, right, and I've actually wrote it, this becomes like that template for the future music. Like when you go back after hearing all the albums that they've released, right, you can hear that okay, this is where it all starts. And for me, that is exciting. I mean, I know that solo that you're talking about, that that really
Yeah.
high pitch. Yeah, that's the
grating.
annoying. Yeah, I just like
That's
Because it's basically the riff, and it's just the riff, but on a really high note, really high pitch.
I think that's Cannibal Corpse paying a tribute to Slayer solos. So like
Well,
Kerriking,
yeah,
It's
wild
like a
Kerriking
very
solos,
weird way
yeah.
of Cannibal Corpse paying tribute to new wave of British heavy metal or something, because it's basically the same melody.
Yeah.
yeah.
It-
So
Uh,
just because, like I said, right, this kind of excites you on in the middle of the album almost, and you're like, okay, yes. So my vote's going for Butchered Birth, which is Under the Rotted Flesh.
Aditya,
Yeah, it's the
agree?
same for me, man. It's the same for me.
I'm so glad you're
Because-
not the contrarian.
Yeah, because as Animesh said, man, it just boils down to that being a better song than that. I think even like Split Wide Open was, I mean, not a downer. It was much better than the last track, but I mean, I didn't really like feel it. Like it's brutal, but it's not as relentless like the other songs on that album, man. And man, Under the Rotting Flesh, yeah, man. As I was saying, you like that album keeps progressing, and each song gets more faster and more brutal. So yeah, man, like Under the Rotted Flesh, like hit that spot in that album where it's like at its peak. Like as you said, like that was the first song that you completely like, right? And I totally agree with you on that, because it is a very cohesive, well thought of song in terms of songwriting and just structure and everything. Just I think again it could have been again one of the tracks on Tomb of the Mutilated production. It would do wonders, like Gutted. But yeah, man, I would go for Under the Rod Flesh for sure.
Awesome. So that's a clean sweep for Butchered at Birth. Then for songs number 4, let's move on to songs number 5 and see what happens there, because we have Covered with Swords from Butchered at Birth taking on Necropedophile from Tomb of the Mutilated. I'll go first. I'm picking Covered with Swords here. What a fucking boss way to begin the song, man. That is such a slimy, evil riff. I think it's my favorite riff of the entire album. And the third section, the one just after the verse at around 1 minute, what a mind fuck of a riff that is. That's truly like fucking awesome. I definitely think it needs cleaner production yet again to really let the musicality of it shine. And yes, I absolutely love the mini solo of sorts at around 2 minutes 24 seconds. Whereas Necropedophile it's just sheer brutality, right? For the first minute or so until the groove really sinks in at around the minute mark. Better drum work, better stick work, definitely. But by the 3 minute mark, I'm just pummeled into submission, and it feels like a sonic assault that left me absolutely drained out. And I don't like feeling that way all the time, at least. So yeah, Covered with Swords for me. Aditya?
See, this one is a tough call because I like both the songs. But as you say, I liked, the not Covered with Swords, but I liked, I forgot the name of the track.
Necropedophile.
Yeah, Necropedophile, because one, first of all, it's a horrific title to read also. And I was just like, what the fuck is wrong with the world? But as I just liked it for the reasons you disliked it, because it was pummeling. But that being said, man, Covered with Swords inches out just because of the intro, man. It is such a brutal way to start a song. And I think that was the inspiration for Cannibal Corpse doing the intro on Hammer Smash Face, the start. You can see that for throwback to Covered with Swords on that, man. Because, that's when you know that, this is the kind of music that you can expect from a band called Cannibal Corpse. It's going to be relentless from minute one. That is what defines Cannibal Corpse for me, right? So that's like Covered with Swords wins just on that basis of that intro, man. It's just so brutal and a perfect way to start a track. And yeah, man, everything else, man, even the solos, the way that the song is structured is nuts. Barnes again has a fantastic vocal performance on that, like disgusting low vocals that he has on that album. I think he's a bit more nuanced when it comes to Tomb of the Mutilated, whereas on Butchered he's more like just plain brutal, and it works in shades there. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but it somehow just fits on Covered with Swords. So yeah, and I think maybe that's another reason I like that song more than Necropedophile for sure.
Wow, you were zigging and then you suddenly zagged, and I
Yeah.
completely buy it. What about you, Peter?
So this is going to be like one of the first tracks where the lyrics, once I read it, I was just like, fuck, man. This is like completely fucked up thing. And that's what I did when I was listening to Necropedophile. So like some of this stuff is just like purely on the lyrics. But having said that, right, Covered in Swords is like a slight relief in there, if you say, like with the mid-tempo start. And I prefer it far more. Like when I go back, like when I'm thinking of which song I want to go back and listen to, it's Covered with Swords. So that's my pick, man.
Interesting. Another clean sweep there for Butchered at Birth. So let's move on to songs number 6, Vomit the Soul from Butchered at Birth versus The Cryptic Stench from Tomb of the Mutilated. Peter, start this one off.
I would be completely butchered if I chose a song. I mean, I voted against a song that had Glenn fucking Benton, man. What a fucking
Fuck
guest
yeah.
vocal, dude.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, okay, if you take Glenn Benton aside, that Vomit the Soul is such a fucking memorable track, man. When you hear all of it, and like, I know this is going to be sounding like repetitive, but can you imagine this track with like much better production? I mean, at this point, I want to like put a petition to Cannibal Corpse, like, guys, can you do a remaster of it?
No,
It's been-
so Apple has that whole lossless thing now, and they anyways have the remastered edition up. It's not really a step up, to be honest.
Really?
If I was not lying, yeah. I thought they would really clean it up and all, but I think that sort of grimy production is what made Butchered at Birth.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's the reason. I'm no expert on like mixing and mastering and stuff like that. But yeah, man, I totally agree that it could have done with better production. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Vomit the Soul, man. No two questions about that. I mean, can you imagine, like, if you think about it, right? I don't think even they realized at that point that Glenn Benton's going to be as infamous as and they're also going to blow up as much as they did, right? Animesh,
Yeah.
what's your pick?
Okay. So the Cryptic Stench, it begins like superbly, right? I wish they chose to build the song in that vein itself. And it's one of the few Cannibal Corpse songs where I think the vocal performance really lets the song down, because it's the music that is the highlight, and especially that weird slowish section that's happening around the middle of the song, like around that 2.5 minute mark, where yet again the drums absolutely shine. I mean, where was this version of the drums before, right? What was this guy smoking or doing for around a year? How did he suddenly level up to such a amazing degree? Vomit the Soul. Okay, you guys will probably kill me for this, but I don't really care for Benton's guest vocals, because to me they're the weakest element of the song. His dog barking style works only on DI side. It doesn't work as a backup vocal for Cannibal Corpse, man. It just doesn't. But apart from that, I think Vomit the Soul is one of my favorite songs of this entire album. It's great musicality and it's intensely focused songwriting, and that's why, even though it has, according to me, not needed backing vocals, it still gets the vote. So yeah, I'm with you on this one, Peter. Aditya, are you with us or are you not?
Same, of course, dude. Like, dude, first of all, I mean, it's like Benton on that. Okay, whatever. Him being there, not being there wouldn't be a factor to be honest, but Benton makes it sweeter. I would like say the opposite of you. I find that his parts like really interesting where he comes in, but I mean that's a personal preference, anyways.
Yeah.
Potato.
Over
No,
that,
it
man,
definitely helps the song stick out. It helps the chorus stick out, because you're not hearing anything of that sort in the entire album. It
Yeah,
suddenly
and
becomes more energetic. I get that.
and just for Cryptic Stench, as I said, yeah, it the intro and all is fine, but I'll be honest with you, it's not in like, I mean, it's one of the more boring Corpse tracks for me, man. Like, for me, honestly, that track was a task to listen to when I first heard it. I was like, dude, and that time too, we didn't have like streaming where you could just like, "Okay, fuck off, next song." this I was waiting for the track. I'm like, just end, man. Like, okay, fine. Because I mean, and that's very rare for me for a Cannibal Corpse song, to be honest. And yeah, man. I mean, I don't know where. I think this somehow I somewhere must have dropped the ball, or this must be like that one-off track. They just said, okay, let's just put it in. Fuck it. Whereas Vomit the Soul on Butcher at Birth is also a very fresh thing to hear because it's a lot more groovier than the other tracks in the whole album. Plus it's I think it's just more well thought of. It's not as relentless as the other tracks on that album, but man, they have locked it in every section. I mean, even Paul Mazurkiewicz does a very serviceable job on drums, of course not as much as on Cryptic Stench or on Tomb. It's still frenetic and just random blasts everywhere and stuff like that, but he has these nice grooves that go on top of the guitar riffs that go. Plus, man, Barnes again here shines like hardcore, man. Like his vocal performance on this song is also great. And another just like a stupid reason to say is, man, I just remember the name Vomit the Soul rather than Cryptic Stench, man. Like I have to jog my memory to remember Cryptic Stench. But if you say Vomit the Soul, I can immediately remember it. So yeah, man. But just like on the basis of songwriting, man, it's just like much miles ahead of what was on Cryptic Stench. So yeah, Vomit the Soul for me, definitely.
Fantastic. Let's move on to songs number 7 and see if Tomb of the Mutilated can pick up a point or two, because now we have Butchered at Birth from Butchered at Birth versus Entrails Ripped from a Virgin's Cunt from Tomb of the Mutilated. Peter, begin this one.
So I had to like not go through the lyrics because that was just like completely fucked up for me for Entrails. But Butcher at Birth, I mean, it's straight up death metal. And yeah, I mean, for that album, when you're doing like comparison, you're like, okay. But if you leave the lyrics aside, right, on Entrails, there's a lot more going on that track. There's comparatively, if you just, and that's the thing, right? When you're comparing track to track, like on the album also you can tell, but yeah, music wise, there's so much more going on. So yeah, Entrails is my pick. Aditya?
I as much as I like Entrails, and it's a superior song just in terms of songwriting and structure and all that. I'll go for Butcher at Birth for the reason being that, man, that song defines Cannibal Corpse for me. I mean, if I had to put a set template, like this is what you can expect in every aspect of Cannibal Corpse, like right from the riffs to the song titles to like the artwork. Artwork is still okay, fine, a question mark, but riff, song title, lyrical themes, I mean, I would go for Butcher at Birth, man. It's just unrelenting brutality on the, and that is for me is the peak of the album. In that the title song is the peak of the album because that, man, is a relentless monster of a song, man. It's unrelenting from the get-go. It's like how Hammer Smash faces, right? Like it starts off and it's just brutality afterwards. So for that reason, man, even though I would have to definitely agree if I was just going in terms of musicianship or just everything else, definitely Entrails would win hands down. But just for it being such a defining song in their discography, I'd go for Butchered at Birth.
Which side are you going to pick, Animesh?
Okay, so hear me out on this. Entrails, definitely the song concept and the lyrics are much stronger, but it's even stronger than the musicality, because to me the only musical highlight of this song was the dual solo by Rusey and Owen. Whereas Butcher at Birth, it's refreshing to hear that sonic palette, this late into the album again and not make it like it's still fresh at some level, and it doesn't follow the same formula that you've been listening to for the past 6 songs. And that's because even though it sounds like a chainsaw of sorts, I think the riffs on Butcher at Birth and the songwriting is like a well sharpened samurai sword, because it's like really precise, it's fast, only one single cut needed to butcher at birth as such, right? It's sheer abruptness. You can feel the impact as such of each razor sharp riff because it's so start stop staccato. It's beautiful. By that logic, I'm giving my vote to Butchered at Birth.
Fuck yeah. Even like that intro, right? It just hits you out of nowhere when that song starts. Like you're like, what the fuck just happened? And like and this is coming after Vomit the Soul, which I feel now in retrospect is so well placed between Covered with Swords and that, because it's like
Yeah, it
brutal song,
almost acts like a
slightly
palate
mid-placed.
cleanser.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and here you go, fuck you. Here, this is what you came for. So yeah, and man, I mean, actually, I'm surprised. First of all, Butchered is winning, because I thought everyone would go for Tomb, because it's a much more better produced and
Same.
more famous album. But no. Anyways, both are like fucking iconic albums. But yeah, man, like just Butchered at Birth, Animesh, I have to agree with you on that, man. It's like this precise samurai sword, just like one stroke and it's done, it's finished. It's so relentless, that song, that I mean, it like, as Peter keeps on saying, that song is like a template setting song. Like if you have to do death metal, do it this way or don't do it, man. Like it's something of that sort. Or you rather be Opeth or something like that. So shit like that. So
Shade is thrown.
so yeah, I mean, fuck that, man. So but I mean, just in terms of it's so if I had to actually, like, not even tell, if I had to just describe to someone what a death metal song sounds like, I'd make them listen to Butcher at Birth, because it is death metal in so many ways. It's like loud, heavy, abrasive. You have the guttural vocals, you have the relentless drumming in that. Just hits you out of nowhere, and everything is disgusting in a good way about that song. So yeah, man, I get why everyone would go for Butcher at Birth in this pick.
Still, only two of us did.
Yeah, Peter.
Anyways,
Let's
move
see
on.
what happens in the last two tracks now.
Cool. So let's get to that. This is the penultimate song from both albums. Songs number 8. It's Rancid Amputation from Butchered at Birth versus Tomb of the Mutilated's Post Mortal Ejaculation. Peter, since you had that small preface, you want to go ahead and state your case?
Post-mortal ejaculation, man. It is just a fucking sinister track. I mean, like, I'm just trying to think what these guys were doing while like sequencing the album. And they're like, because if you think about it, right, everyone had like track A with your strong tracks, track Bs, side A's with your stronger tracks, side Bs was there. I don't think Cannibal Corpse followed that logic. They were like, we're putting out 9 songs that we fucking really want on the album. And there's no side A, side B kind of thing. And this track is just fucking sinister, man. I mean, like, you're like the last 6-7 minutes of the album and they're still at it. So, yeah, man, for me, it's post-mortal ejaculation. Aditya, what's your pick?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same for me, man. And for the same reasons you said, man, I think I was amazed that towards the end that they have something this brutal up in that album. Like, to respect to that, and the song is just sick, man. Like I mean, this is, again, I go back to Barnes, but his vocal performance on this is great. Webster also, like, you can hear the subtle bass lines, but he's just killing it as usual. I mean, he's like the gold standard of death metal bass players, man, like, for a reason. And you can like, dude, when I saw him live, like, when I saw Cannibal Corpse live, right, in Through the Rain and Muck, the only focus, to be honest, for the first 2 songs is only Alex Webster, man. The way he plays the bass is like amazing. But sorry, getting back to the point, yeah, man, post-mortal ejaculation, because I think Rancid Amputation, I like, it didn't really stick with me as much as this one did. In terms of that, on its own, it's a great song, but if I had to, like, just pick between the two, I would go for this, man, for sure. And it's at the end of the day, it's also much more well-produced song, so you can, like, clearly hear all the parts in this, unlike the stuff on Butchered at Birth. So yeah, post-mortal ejaculation for me.
Okay. Songs number 8, to be very honest, was the toughest versus for me, because it's almost like comparing apples to oranges. And I'll tell you why. Post-mortal ejaculation, it shows off so much more variation, but somehow it doesn't really feel as heavy as the previous 6 songs. It kind of lacks the brutality that the previous, sorry, the it lacks the brutality that the previous 7 songs have in spades. It's almost like Cannibal Corpse were like, कुछ अलग सोचें क्या, कुछ अलग कोशिश करें क्या, right? Whereas what's weird is Rancid Amputation. To me, that feels like Cannibal Corpse challenged themselves to write a song as if they were Slayer attempting to write a Cannibal Corpse song. Because think about this, if Slayer was to have released Rancid Amputation, it would be one of the best Slayer songs ever. But Cannibal Corpse releasing
Agreed.
this kind of a song doesn't feel like the best song ever. It's a very weird thing to say about a Cannibal Corpse song, right? Because
Yeah.
even
definitely.
even after having said that, they practically just color well within the lines. They don't really step outside of their comfort zone as such, and yet the song has so much conviction. So it depends on what flavor of Cannibal Corpse you like. If you want just sheer brutality, stock death metal, which is really good, you'll go with Rancid Amputation. But if you want that slight tadka on your Cannibal Corpse songs, then you'll go with Postmortal Ejaculation. At the moment, I'll go with you guys. I'll go with Postmortal Ejaculation.
Plus, I found the intro of that song damn hilarious, man. That riff is so funny. I'm like, dude, what? Like, what am I hearing? What is this stupid riff? But I mean, it builds well into the song after that. But and it has a great midsection, man, where it just goes all out brutal in that. So yeah, I mean, I understand why you would go for that. But about that thing about you saying them not going out of the lines, I mean, I think pretty much defines Cannibal Corpse's whole discography, right? If it's not broken, why fix it? And I love them for that. I mean, I like how they don't give a shit about like, being more technical or going faster or slower. They are just like, we are like that monolith of brutality, and
The AC/DC is basically, that's what
Yeah.
I call them.
yeah, they are the AC/DC of death metal by now. But yeah, man, I would give that to 6 Feet Under because they're boring also. So, but no,
Yeah,
No,
see,
no,
that's
no.
that's exactly what I
Yeah.
was telling Peter. Cannibal Corpse can't be the AC/DC of death metal.
yeah, no, because see,
No, I
I
mean,
like
Iron Maiden of
AC/DC,
death
but
metal. Yeah, I get that.
yeah, AC/DC, I like a few songs, but yeah, but
They
compared
can
to
get
6 Feet
boring.
Under, like yeah, I mean, it's like a set template, man. You know what's coming. It's nothing like that will surprise. I mean, Back in Black was that one album that like really I was like, wow, what is this? But everything else was like, okay, now I can sort of see what's coming. Whereas like 6 Feet Under, though, forget it, dude. The less I talk about it, like that hate will start coming out now. So, let's not like wasted opportunity, man.
Okay, a clean sweep there for Tomb of the Mutilated. Let's see if it goes into the last song. Songs number 9. We have Innards Decay from Butchered at Birth versus Beyond the Cemetery from Tomb of the Mutilated. I'm going to go first, and I'll just say that on Butchered at Birth, by now, I'm craving some sort of zag to the zig, and this song delivers on that ask in spades. I fucking found this a brilliant way to end an album. Whereas Beyond the Cemetery, weirdly, by now I'm craving for more brutality, which this song doesn't seem to deliver. Sure, it has a higher number of moving parts, but as a song, the musical elements and how they are stitched together just don't do anything for me. So I'm going with Innards Decay on this one.
I have the opposite view, but for me, I'll tell you where I'm coming from also. Innards Decay for me is that it's the raw version of the sound that's going you hear on Tomb of the Mutilated. So that's what I really enjoy. Like by the end, you're like, okay, this is what we're kind of expecting, or this is what you're going to get on the next album in there. For me, I actually enjoyed Beyond the Cemetery. I mean, for me, I didn't expect the album to end that way. So I was just like, what the hell? Like these guys are still at it, and you've got like 40 minutes, right? And if you think about it, that is the up. Beyond that, any kind of death metal, or at least like pure death metal like this, you just cannot handle. So it's like right at there, this is it. And beyond, like if they had one more song, even if it was like 2 minutes more, it kind of crosses your threshold in there. But yeah, but for me, it's Beyond the Cemetery. Aditya, come on.
I thought, Peter, you would choose Beyond the Cemetery because it's one song title you can like say out loud and not be like horrified horrified by. Like even if you say it in front of your family and all, they're like, "Ha, chalo, chalo, okay,
listen,
fine."
listen. The
Like,
last 3 songs on this album, the lyrics are just like a complete mind fuck, man.
yeah, true. But as a choice, man, I'm also going for Energy Decay, man, because to be honest, when I heard Beyond the Cemetery, I was sort of let down because I'm like, man, it's like, as Animesh said, I'm craving for brutality. Like, it's like you've given me a taste of what you can do for these 8 tracks, and then you go for this. I mean, I guess get why they want to do it to end the year, but man, Energy Decay again, as it's like again out of left field, and it just like ends the album on a perfect note for me personally. Whereas the man Beyond the Cemetery just doesn't do it for me. Again, it's like the Cryptic Stench. It's like one song. It's very forgetful for me. I mean, I don't even like today. In fact, I heard that song after a long time, and I'm like, oh, this is how it goes. I mean, it didn't even stick to me that much. And this is coming from a guy who has Cannibal Corpse tattooed on his arm. So, so yeah, man. Like it just didn't work for me. I mean, on its own, I mean, there may be people who would like it. I don't. But yeah, man, just in the way, like it's like a nice, cherry on the cake for Butchered at Birth with Energy Decay on that. Yeah, so that's my vote.
Alrighty, so those were the songs as such versus that's a bad way to use past tense for that word, but anyways, we've done it. Let's quickly talk production. I know it's just a technicality at this point in time, but hey, yeah, I'd be surprised if anybody's not picking Tomb of the Mutilated here.
Yeah, easily, man, easily.
I mean,
It's
like you said, right? I didn't hear it on Apple Music, but even in the remaster with Apple Music lossless, if it doesn't sound good, then I don't think.
yeah, and I think, see, if they went with the same production that they went on Butcher at Birth, like those groovy parts and like those really tight rhythm sections or those bass solos wouldn't have sounded as great or significant as they do on that album, to be honest. So production wise, they are definitely, man. I mean, like, see, Butcher at Birth has its own charm to it, definitely, but man, let's not kid ourselves, man. It just sounds fucking stellar on Tomb of the Mutilated, for sure.
Awesome. So, the last question then. Overall pick between the two, who would you vote for? Let me have a stab at this one first. It's absolutely clear that on Tomb of the Mutilated, the band is definitely more experienced. They definitely are pushing the envelope of the Cannibal Corpse sound and what their songs can sound like. They have more budget, which means they get more studio time, which means they're working on the production and it sounds better. But lyrically, I just fucking can't with this album. It's an overdose of sexual violence, and I can't stomach reading through every line in just one setting. It makes me feel super disgusted. Take the lyrics and my ability to understand what Barnes is saying away, and this album does flow better. Now, Butcher at Birth, on the other hand, it sets the tone, and basically for me, it's the benchmark for each subsequent Cannibal Corpse release. It sets the baseline for what a Cannibal Corpse album will be, and lyrically, the songs, I appreciate the fact that at least they're telling different stories. And yes, well, they're all still horrific. They are all also easily digestible as a story, and it doesn't make my stomach churn as such. It flows well, structurally good, very good songs. Yes, terrible production, but hey, I'd go and listen to Butchered at Birth as an album again, but on Tomb of the Mutilated, I think I'll stick to the standout singles and leave it at that. So yeah, for me, I'm picking between the two albums, Butchered at Birth.
I kind of agree with you on the same reasons for Tomb of the Mutilated, if I've not already made a case for that. But I'll come from a different perspective, right? And it's also down to what kind of death metal you enjoy, right? If you see Butcher at Birth is kind of made the template for caveman death metal, which a lot of bands are kind of like, while we are criticizing the production, right? They want that production. There are entire labels now, like Maggot Stomp and all of them, who just kind of do have that kind of sound in there. So it was, if you're into that, then I think Butchered at Birth is your pick. But if you like the better produced death metal you want, and you're slowly now veering towards the technical death metal, which sometimes may have sterile production, and that's a criticism for the mid 2000s Cannibal Corpse also, right? That they got the metalcore production with Eric Rutan and all of them. So I think it also comes down onto your taste of that metal, but purely for the reasons that you said, Animesh, I agree with Butchered at Birth. Aditya.
See, it's a tough call, not because I'm like a fanboy, but it's a tough call because I like both the eras of like that, both the sound of death metal that they have in that. And see, when I first read through the lyrics of Tomb, I was like I still am very disturbed by it. But I think, I mean, that was the only way they could sort of up their game at that point of time, I guess, just, trying to play into the shock factor of things and stuff like that. That being said, man, for me, it's Butchered at Birth because, first of all, that's the first Cannibal Corpse album I heard. So that made me the fanboy of the band that I am. And I mean, just like in our discussion, you can see how many songs of Butchered at Birth I preferred over stuff in Tomb of the Mutilated. But that being said, on its own, I do think Tomb is up there as one of the better death metal albums of all time. Just because it's so iconic in a lot of ways. It gave Cannibal Corpse the more mainstream appeal that it got. It's definitely better production. It in some sort of way, it set a template for them of the way to move ahead in terms of like production and songwriting. But man, Butchered at Birth is like is the purest I mean, like the uncut cocaine of death metal, if I have to put it that way. I mean, it's so basic, and I mean, you'll not find like technical flair or those complicated bass lines and stuff like that in Butchered at Birth, but it doesn't have to. It's just unrelenting sheer brutality that makes the album so iconic. And man, that's what death metal is, right? It's supposed to be like brutal and like relentless and stuff like that. And for that reason, man, Butchered at Birth definitely wins hands down for me.
So while Animesh totals up the scores, I have a question for you now, Aditya. And if it's not kind of obvious as yet to our listeners, but just looking at Cannibal Corpse material wise, right? Let's leave everything else aside in there. Which era of Cannibal Corpse in terms of vocals do you prefer?
That's
Chris
the
Barnes,
most difficult question. But
or Corpse Grinder.
I would say Corpse Grinder because man, first of all, he took it up a notch, to be very honest. Like Bleeding is first of all, by the way, both of these albums, Tomb and Butchered, are not my favorite Barnes era albums. It's the Bleeding, his last hurrah, which now in hindsight I'm thankful for. But man, like just think of it, man. Like when you hear Vile, right? Devoured by Vermin is the first track, and the way it starts is where you can see how the band has just stepped up. Like, so I think with Corpse Grinder coming in, the band just became more brutaler in terms of just songwriting. He upped the game. Like, dude, for every other death metal vocalist that I know, he's one of their influences. And that guy is like the most relentless vocalist I've seen. Like, he was on that I Got track recently, like last year or last year, they released that. Man, unrelenting brutality, man. Like, that guy can go 1,000 miles per hour, whereas Chris Barnes, you can, even in an album that's recorded, you can kind of see like the fatigue setting in for him. And taking nothing away from Barnes, man, like those first 4 albums that he did with Cannibal Corpse are great, like insane. Vocal performances are up, but Corpse Grinder, man, just takes it up a notch. And how, man, like, in all honesty. So yeah, Corpse Grinder era, man. And also I think in the Corpse Grinder era, they've had like way more albums. So yeah, and like I mean, most of the released material that is there after I started listening to Cannibal Corpse is Corpse Grinder. So I mean, I think it goes that way for me. Good, you didn't ask me what's your favorite album, because that I can't answer for sure.
That will put you on the spot for at another time.
Yes, yes. We have other formats for you, Aditya, to make you sweat.
I have to mentally prepare myself for that.
So, coming back to the verses, Butchered at Birth versus Tomb of the Mutilated. Boys, do you want to guess which one won?
I think Butchered did, I feel. But
I don't know. I went into this while I was writing my notes, right? I'm like, I'm sure Aditya and Animesh are going to say Tomb of the Mutilated, and I'm going to be the one sticking out saying, no, Butchered at Birth, this song. So I'm genuinely surprised at the votes, but
yeah, I feel like a hipster who tells you I used to prefer the older stuff and stuff like that. But no, man,
you're that Metallica fan, like first 4 albums only.
First 4 albums. ऐसा ही है मैं.
See, here's the thing, right? Weirdly enough, the difference in points between the 2 albums is just 2 points.
Oh,
and by that narrow margin of 2 points, Butchered at Birth has won over Tomb of the Mutilated.
I'm surprised.
If you were to break that down in terms of songs, right? Butchered at Birth has 14 points, whereas Tomb of the Mutilated has 13 points. So there's only a difference of 1 point there.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Butchered at Birth lost completely because of the production.
Yeah.
And Tomb of the Mutilated lost completely because nobody wants to try and I think we're too old or we're just too pussy to go back and listen to it as an entire album over and over again. I don't know. But yeah, this was perhaps the closest verses we've ever done.
Nice.
Yeah.
Just a 2-point difference. I genuinely thought Tomb of the Mutilated would have more fans.
Same. See, all of us, I think all of us went with that same assumption and kind of chose.
And I think all of us went in and we said, okay, let's do something different today then. So, no, but
I don't think anybody went into saying, hey, let's do something different. It's just, I think...
I mean, I think it is what it is. It's a case of that. Like,
maybe we are just 2 decent human beings.
Yeah, probably. And
this is why we are not in death metal bands.
Yeah, I sort of understand why now after Tomb of the Mutilated, Bob Rouse left to pursue a career in golf after this. So
it's like
I can't deal with the shit.
Bus ho gaya, bus ho gaya. I think after Beyond the Cemetery, we were like, yeah, fuck it, dude.
But can you imagine what happened to Pat O'Brien after all the years of intense death metal?
Yeah. I would just put like, Nevermore is to blame for that.
Anyways, dear listeners, whoever is still listening, which one of the 2 albums did you pick? Who won your verses? Why don't you let us know? We are at hauntsuppod.com or on Twitter at hauntsuppod. As always, I'm on Twitter at Asmawani.
I'm at Trent Crusher.
Aditya is at
Aditya Rao on Twitter and Aditya Rao on Instagram.
Oh yeah, he's a grammar.
Yeah.
Until the next time, horns up.
Horns up, guys.
See you guys. Horns up.